Hi guys, welcome to Exam Debug CS. Today we are going to be looking at numbers, but we're also going to be starting to think about data types. Okay, this is not the first class, so if you've not seen the first class, you're going to need to know what variables and how to do inputs and prints to be able to do this class. So if you can't do that, I suggest you go back and give it a try. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and create a mini, we'll call it a calculator, I guess. It's going to ask for two numbers. We're going to add those two numbers together, and then we're going to output them to the screen. Okay, so we're going to ask for numbers. Now, you should be able to do this already if you remember from the last class. So I'm going to create a variable called num1. And then can you remember how I ask the user for something? Okay, hopefully you can, and it's going to be an input. So we're going to input, enter a number. Okay, and we're going to do exactly the same for a second number. If my spelling goes wrong or anything at any point, just ignore it, please. Okay, so we're going to ask for numbers, and we're going to add together. So I'm going to create a third variable. I could put it into num1 or num2, but just to keep it nice and tidy, later on you can make your programs more efficient. For now, we're going for clarity, okay? So num3 equals num1 plus num2. And then we're going to output the answer. Now, can you remember how to output something to the screen? Yep, it is going to be a print. So print, and then in brackets here, we're going to put num3. Okay, now I'm going to save that and I'm going to run it. So I'm going to enter a number 5, and I'm going to enter another number, let's say 6. What do you think the output is going to be? 56? What? Okay, so, yeah, what's going on here? That's not what we wanted, is it? Okay, no, it's not. So this is where we're getting into this stuff called data types. Okay, now I'll talk about data types a bit more at the end, but let's get this program working first, and then we'll cover that a little bit in the theory of data types and what it is we're talking about. Okay, so in short though, here, what we ask for and what the user types is always going to be a string for an input. Okay, we talked a bit about strings last time. Strings are just text. Okay, so what I'm getting in at this point is a picture of a number 5, if you like. Okay, I'm getting a string number 5. But that doesn't actually have a mathematical value inside the computer. Okay, it's just a picture that the computer displays on the screen. Okay, so when it gets these two pictures, a picture of a 5 and a picture of a 6, it treats it as if I say A plus B. It just puts them right next to each other inside a single string. Okay, so we're getting a picture of a 5 and a picture of a 6 and just sticking them right next to each other. So what we want to do is we want to take this string and we want to say, I want to change it into an integer. Now an integer, or int for short, an integer is a number, and it's going to be a whole number normally. No, almost always a whole number. So like 5, 9, 100. There's no like 1.6, no 53.2. It's just, it has to be just the whole number. Okay, there are other numbers, there are other data types that we'll come to at another point in time. But today we just want to think about the whole number integers. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take this string and we want to convert it to an integer. And to do that, we say, well, let's for now, I'm just going to do num2 string, and sorry, num1 string, num2 string, and I'm going to change it to an integer. So I'm going to say num1 equals int, bracket, bracket, and then inside the bracket I put the string I want to change. The string I want to change has been saved inside the num1 string variable. And that's going to be the same for number 2. Okay. Oops. So we now have number 1 is going to become the integer. It's going to become the mathematical number of the string that is in here. And then once they're added together, they're going to be put into number 3 over here. Okay, and then it's going to be output to the screen. So let's save that and run it this time and see if we get a better answer. Fingers crossed. So we're going to have 5, 6, 11. Yay, that works. Hey, that works. Good. So let's make this a bit more user-friendly. So I'm going to print the answer is plus num3. Okay, now let's see what happens here. Enter number 3, 4. Crash! Okay, so, hang on, it was working before, it's not working now. But if you look down here, and this is where you really need to start looking at your errors. So, cannot concatenate string, not int to string. So as soon as you start seeing things like int and string, then that means it's something to do with data types. Okay, so we don't like to be mixing our data types too much. And that's what I've done here. I've put a string and a number together. Now, before when I had just this, Python is smart enough to go, he's trying to print out an integer 3. But, and will change it automatically to a string for me. That's what this print function will do. It will change it to a string and then print it to the screen. But when I added in this, it gets confused because I have a string, I have a number, and it's all mixed up and it doesn't know what to do. So what I should do is I should convert my number to a string before I print it. And then that way it's clear. And it's good for you to do that as well. Okay, so the answer is, and I'm going to do this separate, and then we're going to make it a bit more efficient after. Okay, I'm going to change int to string. And to do that, I'm going to say num3 string equals str num3. Okay, so that's going to take the number of a number 3 and change it into a string. And then I'm going to print that string to the screen, not the number, not the integer. Let's try it this time. Okay, I'm going to close this and run again. Okay, enter a number, 78. Enter another number, 12. The answer is 90. Okay, oops, and I've forgotten my space there, but it's fine. Okay, so let's run through very quickly what's happening there. I should have a space on the end there too, nice and neat. Okay, so we're asking the user to enter something into these variables, and we're saving them as strings. Okay, these variables are string variables, and we should try and keep them that way. Python lets us switch around very easily. Other languages don't, so I would say practice. Just when you make a variable, keep it the same data type all the way through, I would suggest. Even if you have to make another variable. Okay, then we're going to change those strings into numbers. We're going to add the numbers together. And then we're going to change the answer back to a string. And then we're going to print it to the screen. Okay, so, I mean, how else might you think of these variables and things? You could think of it like we talked about in the last class. So when you make a variable, you have to give it a proper name. So in this case, if it's going to be a box of toys, we're going to say toys. But we also have to tell it what kind of thing is going to be in there. Not just name it, But is it going to be something solid, like toys? Because this basket's handy for solid things. But if I were to put a can of soup, if I was to open the soup and pour it into this basket, it wouldn't fit very well. It's not the appropriate material. It's not the right data type. It's not the right variable data type to be storing it in. So we want to be storing it inside the correct container, the correct kind of box. So soup and other liquids have to be treated in different ways from solids or from other kinds of materials. And we have to put them into the right kind of containers. And when we're manipulating them and doing things with them, we have to, again, deal with them in different ways. Yeah, I've got to use a spoon or a ladle for soup, but I probably can just use my hands for toys and things like this. So inside the computer, there's different ways for it to be dealing with things. And so that's why we have to have the correct container and the correct data types. Okay, so that's the main thing for today. What I want to do before we go, though, is just show you how we could make this program a bit more efficient. So you see that I'm doing this and this here when I really don't have to. Okay, so what I can be doing is putting things around each other. So I can put int bracket around my input. And that means as soon as the input comes in, before it's put into this variable, it's going to be changed to an integer. And so I can just have it going straight into num1 and num2. Again, same here, int num1, num2. And then that way I don't actually need that whole section. Yep. Likewise here, I don't actually need to make a num3 string variable. I can just put that inside of when it's going to be printed out, because it doesn't have to be saved anywhere, really. It's only going to be used once. So I can convert it inside of the other string. Okay, so practice-wise, what I want you to do is try playing around with different, try and add 3 numbers together or 4 numbers together. Add lots of numbers. Try and do that as a practice. So you're going to have multiple inputs and you're going to have various conversions. If you can get that going, then what you might want to start thinking about is doing things apart from addition. So there are other options. What you can have is you can divide, you can multiply. What else can we do? Oh, you can subtract. Okay, so you might want to try making different little programs that do different things. So we can have divide, which is a slash, star is multiply, and the negative sign is still the negative sign. So just try playing around with this and seeing what different results you can get out, what different sort of calculators you can make for this. And try adding multiple ones together, ones that maybe work out your tax or whatever, something like this, some other mathematical formulas, perhaps from your physics class or economics or something. Okay, and if you have any questions, then please just post them in the comments below. Anyway, thank you very much, and that's us for today.